We are in our February 2024. I don't generally tend to do the January one because the first Tuesday of the month is it's always just a little bit too close after New Year. People are still away, and really no one wants to come and play with me. But it does make for a much bigger February when we do kick in. And look, don't forget. And I've pinned in chat as well as I've got it here on the screen. There is the presentation that you can come back to at any point, and our guest speaker will also provide through some information and links, and I'll drop that into the presentation as well. There is the YouTube channel, so the recording will go live on the YouTube channel. Give me a few days. It usually takes me a little bit to get it cleaned up and load it up into YouTube and put all the chaptering and everything in for you, but it will go live. So the recording that does drop into chat won't be the one that you'll actually be watching. Please feel free to spread the news for the new year. Put it out there. I'd love to see some new faces. And if you do come across those that sit across that sort of ACM, adoption change, training, analysis, project managers, those are in the partner space, trainers, if you're living across that space, please feel free to forward on any of the information. We're always welcoming new people. And if you know of any speakers, bring those in as well, pass them on. I'm always up for a new speaker, and I know I have a few out there in the community that's always passing on, speakers into particular topics that you might want to hear about. So let's get in and we'll get ourselves started. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all meeting from today, and to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And I do extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders people who are with us. I ask that we be always open, welcoming. We have lots of different viewpoints and questions that are asked. Some of us are more technologically challenged than others. That's okay. There is no silly questions. Please feel free to ask us. That's what we're here for. I do ask that you be patient, that you be friendly, and that you consider the type of gifts and things that you might put into chat, as we do have a wide audience, and this does. And it's available online. If you haven't been before, welcome. My name is Kirsty. I am an employee experience adoption consultant, trainer. I'm the director of On Point Solutions, and I've been running these user groups for a while. So we always do the what have I been up to? Okay, it's been 2 months, so a lot actually happens. I went to the Harry Connick Jr. concert. How can you not when he comes to town? Of course, I went out and instead of doing cakes, I made a ton of cookies for Christmas for all of my friends and family. So everyone got some cookies. And I don't know if you know, but I think I've talked about it before, but on Sunday mornings, I do a bushwalk. So this is kind of my bushwalking group. We got together for a breakfast after our bushwalk. So we're all in our bushwalking gear. We had a big Christmas lunch. It was at my place this year. So ton of placings set down with their cookies on their plate ready for them. I had lots of food and so much left over for just me in the household for the next week. Crazy amount of food. That's my daughter and her partner, little man, on his Christmas day. Me, I did lots of puzzles over Christmas. I had a staycation, so I did a bit of quiet time. This is my puzzle table. Yeah, I'm a little serious on my puzzling. So I get into my puzzling. It was recently my dad's 77th birthday, last Thursday. So I did a cartoon cake for him. I've got a few coming up over the next 2 months. But my biggest fun thing that's really happened is I got myself a new kitty. It's been over a year since I last my pussycat. She was nearly 19 years old. Tomorrow she would have been 20, sorry, she would be. So she is a little sort of Russian, she's a Siberian forest cat. They get huge. They're like underneath the Maine Coon, they're the largest of cats. They're like hypoallergenic, so if you sneeze, she's got like 3 layers of hair. She's long hair, and so she's tearing around and using me as a launching pad in her zoomies at the moment. So she's doing a little bit of a wave hello to you all, and I don't generally tend to bring her into my study with me because I'm on recording. So one day maybe I'll put her up here in front of you. And that was one of my bushwalks, and it was around the water. It was I like to get out there and get to see some amazing Sydney sights. If you're ever around, go for a bushwalk. So that's me and what I've been up to. So let's kick in with our guest speaker. So welcome. We've got Aniisu. Now, am I saying that correctly? I really should double check that I'm actually saying that correctly. And if I'm not, please feel free to.
No, that's correct. Thanks, Kirsty.
So he is actually Sydney-based, but only recently Sydney-based, so he has just come in. He's actually award-winning internal comms specialist and change practitioner. He has over 22 years of experience in this space, so he far exceeds me. He is the founder of Interscope. He's an author, he has his PhD, and he recently won the IABC Communicator of the Year Award in 2022. I'm really looking forward to hearing a little bit more about some of his journeys and some of the insights that he actually have. He's, worked across many continents. He's really passionate about this space. So, and with being, globally recognised, and also on, didn't you win something recently on LinkedIn as well, if I remember rightly?
Yes, that's the top voice for internal comms and personal branding.
Nice, love it. So I'm going to hand over to him. I'll let you take over sharing of the page so we can hear a little bit more about him rather than me.
Thank you, Kirsty. I like your energy. Thank you so much for inviting me. And hello, everyone. Let me kind of quickly pull up my slides and let me know if you can see it. Yeah, if it's on, I won't be able to see the chat window, so I'm just kind of.
I'll read out if there are any questions along the way, I'll just unmute and I'll read out for you.
Fantastic. So again, thank you so much, and I'm glad that I'm here. Let me kind of, what I've really done is distill the intranet experience over the last 20 plus years. So I'm really talking about from year 2000 till all the way till 2022, 23. So that's the kind of the span at which I'm talking about. And like Kirsty mentioned, so I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes to talk about who I am and what I do and how I've reached Australia. So just to give you some background, I am very new, just about 3 months in Australia. Arrived in Sydney with my family in October last year. Prior to this, I was based in Poland for a couple of years. I was leading corporate communications for Sabre Travel Technologies as their director. And all through before that, I was in India and then for a brief stint in the UK. So I have worked in multiple geographies. Again, along the way of the companies and the industries I worked in. So I worked in banking solutions, worked in financial services, retail, technology, consulting, so a broad range of industries. I've been passionate about internal comms. Way back in 2000 is when I decided that I would focus on internal communications because I was passionate about that area and I wanted to become the best in that space. And I started a blog in 2006 and my commitment was 1 post per week, and I still continue to keep that commitment. Along the way, I've also authored a couple of books on internal comms and one on personal branding. The one on personal branding came out in 2021 called Get Intentional. And the most recent one is on internal comms, which is Inclusive Internal Communications, which I released in 2023. Yes, so I kind of been associated also with academia, been teaching at various universities. I've designed courses. I've also written research papers and did my PhD. I completed that in 2021. So again, while I was working, I thought I should also engage on the academic side, and that's how I kind of picked up the PhD. Yeah, and again, last year, there was the Global Talent Program, which the Australian government invites professionals from around the world. And I was selected under that program, under the education category. And I kind of chose to move to Sydney. Now, I've been associated with Australia in the past as well. In 2015, I was invited to Melbourne by the ARC Group to be a keynote speaker and also conduct a workshop on internal communication. So that's my first visit to Australia, and also, it just opened my eyes about the possibilities and the opportunities in the country. So I'm really excited to be here, and again, excited to learn from all of you all as much as I can. So let me begin by talking about my the intranet experience, and I have put together a few case studies, and I've spelled out what the case is and what are some of the insights. And as we go along, please feel free to stop me at any point and ask me questions. Happy to have a discussion on the journey and the experience. So this was way back in 2000 when I worked with a company called iFlix Solutions, which was earlier known as Citicorp Information Technologies Limited. And there was an entire rebranding exercise.
So your pages aren't actually moving. You might want to put it into present mode. So I'm not sure if you've moved.
Oh, okay. Can you see it now?
Yes. Can you maybe put it in present mode? So it's just a little bigger for the audience, if possible.
Is it? Can you see it now? Is it better?
Just if you press F5, it'll go into present.
Might be showing the wrong screen.
Might be, yes, because we're seeing your standard PowerPoint.
Okay. No, that didn't work. Does this help? Can you see it now?
Wait,
are you seeing?
We've just got the standard PowerPoint, like showing it in outline view.
Oh, okay. So is it showing?
It's just showing. It's showing the backstage, and it's not your whole desktop. It's just showing the app. So that's all you've shared.
So let me kind of go back and share the entire desktop. Maybe that might help. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You cannot do that. All right. You can see it now. Is it better?
Yep, we can see it now. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is the first case study I was referring to. So I worked at iFlix Solutions, which was earlier known as Citicorp. The company was going through a rebranding exercise, and of course they had an intranet which wasn't really used. It had just a login screen, and that wasn't the most exciting thing for employees. About 2,000 employees spread across the world. A lot of them sales teams based in geographies where we were trying to grow our business. There was no sponsor and there was no ownership in the company. So the corporate communications team, so my leader kind of picked it up and said, look, it should ideally fall within the communication space. So let's do something about it. And so he picked the ball and said, look, let's think about how we can do something with the intranet and change how the perception is. So what we did was we reached out to business teams, and we soon discovered that they were not seeing value. They didn't really think that it was worthwhile. It was more like a dumping ground for a lot of information. So we did some focus groups, and we also discovered that employees were quite passionate and they wanted to be involved. They wanted to be engaged. They wanted less of business and more of content that involved them and where they could contribute to. So what we did was that we said, okay, let's then revisit the entire approach to the intranet and start inviting employees to a collaborative way in which we can develop the intranet. So we even chose the name by crowdsourcing it. So and this name, which we called it Eye Opener, and because iFlex and Eye Opener, so there was this entire series of usage of the letter I in all the brand names internally that we use. So this brand name was chosen by employees, and we said, okay, now that we have a name, we should also be thinking about how can they then manage their content on their own. How can they, what is the kind of content they would like to see? So a lot of them said, look, we would like to get a lot of information about what's happening in the industry, but also about what are some of the knowledge repositories, who are the experts in the system. And so we redesigned the intranet to focus on those three elements. So the knowledge part, the non-serious part, and of course some bit of serious business stuff as well. And that entire change resulted in a high level of engagement, a change in perception of what the comms team could do. And people were really excited about the content quality that which they could start posting rather than send by email. So the biggest insight that I took away from that was, in terms of trust, because when it comes to a platform like an intranet, we always assume that if you have a platform, people would come and start using it because it's a technology platform and therefore they should see value. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. People need to really commit to an ongoing relationship and be invested in with their time and effort and all of that, and that's when the intranet can really thrive. So this slide, which I kind of saw on the Norman Nielsen Group website, which kind of summarized how people can change when you really think of trust in terms of how strongly they can be committed to the workplace and the technology products that we have. What also resulted was at that time in 2000, when the intranets were not really very popular among organizations and people really didn't know what to do, the intranet strategists, there was a very famous magazine at that point in time, decided to feature us as a case study in their magazine, and that resulted in a lot more traction, which we got. A lot of companies reached out and said, we would like to understand how you went about this entire journey, and we would like to kind of replicate that effort. So again, a quick call out from what was there in the magazine. So again, 3 broad divisions. Knowledge management was important, also the not serious stuff, and then the sensory sections. So when I say sensory, I mean employees were able to contribute, things like recipes, and there was a collector's enclave, and it was so powerful and engaging for employees to be able to share and form their own special interest groups. So I think that was a key driver of engagement at that time. Moving on to the next case study, this is from Accenture. So again, I worked in Accenture in 2005 to 2007, and again, interesting journey at that point, because Accenture, as you know, it's a consulting and a technology firm. In India, they were just about starting out, and they were close to about 30,000 people when I left, but when they are currently more than 3 lakh employees. So that's the scale at which they grew in just over a decade. Sorry. And one of the challenges was that all business teams were wanting to have their own page, and it was getting very siloed. Every team wanted their own page. Every team wanted to communicate through the portal and the intranet. And we soon realized that it was going to create more problems than solutions for the organization. So what we decided was there should be some way in which we clarify the role of the intranet, who owns what content, how employees can participate, and what are the ways in which there can be ownership which can be given within the framework to the various teams. What we did was, of course, while the organization had a global portal, there was also a local India portal which needed to be managed within the framework. So we kept the consistency. We also gave a lot more freedom and autonomy to the local teams to engage with the content. So in essence, what we also called out very clearly was that this was a place where you could save a lot of time and be more effective at the work that you are doing by calling out very clearly what are some of the sections, who manages them, how do you kind of use them. And this lack of awareness was also in a way not helping people. So we clearly made sure that people knew how to navigate the portal, knew exactly what kind of platforms and solutions and products and the experts whom they could reach out to was available. And we then made it more simplified by even calling out the various sections and who were the particular owners. In fact, I removed the column with the names of the owners because obviously that's not appropriate at this stage. But I wanted to also call out that this is exactly the way in which we approached it. So the entire organization and the stakeholders who are involved with managing intranet pages at the respective locations knew exactly how they could engage with the client teams, how they could participate with their own personal development, what are the kind of services they could use, how and what they could do with the compensation and benefits section. And then, of course, there was this entire section of organization news, travel news, and other stuff. So just by clarifying the role and providing ownership, it kind of took away a lot of the time wastage that the organization was facing, and it also helped make the process and efficiency far superior than what it was before. The other aspect that we considered was about building pride and giving recognition to employees, and not just keeping it as a static page on the intranet, but we wanted to use that as a platform where people could recognize each other. There could be a clear a pathway for employees to realize how, what are the various ways in which they could contribute and share and, celebrate the successes that were there. So there were opportunities for the organization to share stories via the portal. And at that stage, because the company was growing, people really didn't have a good understanding of which were some of the client wins, which are some of the teams which are performing really well. And so this platform became a way for the organization to start celebrating some of these successes and people. It was also not enough to just have the intranet and say that, hey, we have a portal and that's it. We also had to do a lot of promotion and brand building around the portal. So there were a series of campaigns that we ran to get people to start using the intranet. And then, of course, we were tracking in terms of what are the adoption rates and how people were doing it. So again, the India portal was obviously linked to the global portal, but then even locally, we needed to get people to start using the India pages. And that's why this entire promotion exercise became very valuable. So the key insight which I wanted to share from this entire journey and this exercise was that employees really need a voice and a platform. And again, if you go back and read the Edelman's Trust Barometer report, what clearly comes out is that there's a big gap between how employers perceive the performance and what employees, in terms of the expectation that employees have vis-a-vis the expectations within the organization. And the gap is widening. And it's very important to understand that unless you give employees a voice, the level of engagement, level of interaction will kind of diminish. All right, moving on to the next case study. And this was when I worked with Fidelity Investments. And again, just to give you some background and context, many of you probably are aware, Fidelity Investments is a privately held financial services major based out of the US, but they hold assets worth trillions of dollars. They had a delivery center in India with about 5,000 employees, mostly Gen Y employees. So obviously the mindset is very different. So I just want to call that out. But as a company, very risk averse, very conservative. They didn't want to try new things. They didn't want to engage external vendors, and therefore they went with a homegrown intranet. Now that has obviously limited capabilities. The CMS was very clunky. There were just too many cooks involved. When I say cooks, I meant, the knowledge management team wanted to have a say, the program management team wanted to have a say, the IT team got involved, and the comms team also got involved. So, so it was really difficult to kind of get people to appreciate and value how an intranet could be shaped. And again, thankfully, and I wanted to call this out, the comms team sat within the CEO's office, which gave us a lot more leverage and a lot more influence in terms of how we could then move the intranet forward. So again, from a sponsorship perspective, it's very important that if the comms team has direct access to the leadership, then there can be a lot of things which can, a lot of influence can be leveraged internally. Now, coming back to the intranet, again, because the intranet had too many stakeholders grappling with various pages, the usage was low, people weren't very engaged. One of the recommendations which I gave, and those days I started reading about usability. And again, usability was fairly new, and Norman Nielsen was obviously doing a lot of work in that space. So was Human Factors International. So I raised my hand and I said, we should probably attempt usability testing and see if, how we can improve the internet. And I kind of asked for doing a certification, and my manager approved it. And I went for a usability testing certification, where I learned a lot about how to understand user behavior, user experience, and how can you bring that to bear at the workplace. So I came back and I then proposed that we do some usability testing, because you can catch almost 70% of mistakes when you do some testing, and simple testing like cart sort exercise would really help enhance the experience of users. And then with working closely with the IT team, we went back and re-looked at all the site map and the site labels, and we redesigned the intranet. Built in a lot of interaction and conversations, and try to make sure that employees' voice was part and parcel of that, and they could be heard. and also making leaders to participate actively. Now, from a cultural standpoint, again, just to give you some background, in India, because it's pretty hierarchical, unless leaders participate, you don't see the teams getting engaged, and therefore you don't have enough engagement on the platform. So getting leaders to be bought into the entire journey and the process really helped. And within a short span of time, we could see a significant increase in page views and hits because of the changes that we did. So a quick glance at the usability testing exercise that we did, a lot of whiteboarding, a lot of sticky notes and all of that, but finally the results were quite positive. And again, went back and measured how it was before, and how was the traffic and views and page hits and all of that after the intranet got launched, and we could see a significant uptick in that. So coming back to what does it really mean in terms of looking at the intranet and the areas of opportunities that we can address. A lot of times when we look at an intranet, we only consider how can we help employees get their work done easily. So we only look at the effectiveness and the efficiency angle, but we really don't see beyond that. Now, in this particular model shared by Gallup, which talks of the employee engagement hierarchy, you can see that there are a lot more aspects that can be tackled, and I suppose the intranet can play a significant role in that. Everything from management support, recognitions, does the company care about me, development opportunities, does my opinion count? So obviously a chance to share their voice. How can I get connected to the mission and purpose, the quality of the workplace, quality of the work, how do I progress in my career, how do I learn and grow? So the portal and the intranet can really pick up a lot of different aspects which can make the employee experience come alive. So again, important to understand before you redesign an intranet, what are some of the areas that you'd like to kind of tackle, and what are some of the possibilities, and then go forward. At this point, I'd like to just pause and see if you had any questions, any thoughts, any reactions so far before I continue.
I haven't seen any questions in chat.
Okay. I'll keep moving on, and we can probably take questions at the end. All right. The next case study is from Tesco, and again, I worked in Tesco at a time when the company was about 450,000 employees, a pretty significantly large organization, one of the biggest employers in the UK. As many of you know, it's a retail giant. And at that time, the company was going through a lot of flux, a lot of change. Of course, they had an intranet, but again, it was managed by the group communications team, which out of the headquarters in Welwyn Garden City. What happened was, while I was doing the work in India, they also, gave me an opportunity and said, "Why don't you come over to the headquarters and work with the group comms team for a short period of time, and gain some experience?" And I found that fascinating opportunity, so I said yes. And when I reached there, I kind of started talking to people, looking at the platforms and the various opportunities that were there within the comms team, and I realized that as a company, being such a significantly large organization, there was no storytelling outlet or a platform which they could leverage. So the traditional way in which how organizations manage or surface stories is that the communications team takes ownership, decides which story is good to go after. Then they start curating it, putting it together, publishing it, measuring how the story was received. But I think that's a very tedious and a cumbersome method. So what I proposed was, I put together a paper and I said, why don't we use the intranet as a storytelling platform and try to crowdsource as many stories as we can. And this paper got accepted by the director of communications, and he put it forward to the CEO, and the CEO agreed. And we kind of linked it back to the company's mission of every little helps, and we called it the Million Little Helps Challenge. And we asked employees, irrespective of where you work, be it in the stores, be it in the distribution centers or in head office, to share how they were impacting customers in their little way. We created a page on the intranet. And again, like I said, the intranet was existing, but we just created a section where people could share their stories in a very simple way. So, your name, where you're located, what is the little help that you did, and you could share a photograph, a video, and that's about it. And obviously, this was an experiment, and no one had done this before. And we went ahead and tried it. And interestingly, within 2 weeks of launching it, we got about 700 stories from across the business, and people were really amazed at the kind of impact that we were making with customers. And really, people didn't have a clue about it until this page got surfaced. What we also did, we built in a bit of functionality where employees could go back and like the stories that they were most passionate about, and the best stories started surfacing on the top. So there was a bit of interactivity and gamification that was done on the internet page. It was extremely well received, and it continues to be the way forward for the organization. So in some, basically, the approach to storytelling was completely reimagined at Tesco, and it wasn't anymore the comms team running after stories, but it was about crowdsourcing it. But we also made sure that it wasn't filtered, which meant that people could publish their stories real time, and it wasn't really going through the comms team and then they were pre-selecting questions. So it was a very transparent way of engaging. So the insight which I kind of wanted to share with you based on that is that organizational conversation has really evolved. It's no more about a top-down way of engaging. It's really talking with employees rather than talking to employees. And there are these 4 elements of this interesting HBR story, article which is there, which talks about intimacy, inclusion, interactivity, and intentionality. So again, how do you kind of make sure that the organizational conversations are really valuable to employees? So it's about co-creating content along with employees rather than seeing them as an audience whom you communicate to. Okay, moving on to the next story, which is really about the where I worked at Sapient. And again, Sapient is a consulting and digital experience firm, more than 30 years, 53 countries, about 20,000 employees. And again, employees, again, it's a US-based company. The comms team was headquartered at the US, but then we had representation in the various markets. The challenge was that employees were not given the same experience as customers, and that was the biggest drawback. Customers were always given priority, and employees were, even from a technology investment standpoint, they weren't really given the right tools and resources. And so there was a need for the organization to step back and understand whether it was really worth it, and we should be investing a lot more towards employees. So the perception also had to change internally, and we also wanted employees to take action and be participative in the entire process of the organization's strategy and journey. So what we did was we took a data-centric approach, and again, a very authentic approach of going to employees and asking them what is it that they really want out of the people portal. That's what it was called at Sapient, and wanted to change the perception of the intranet. And what we then went back and did was an entire exercise of re-enhancing the portal and making sure that we were thinking about the employee as a customer and giving them what they required, personalized information, data-driven insights from the ways in which we were engaging, and also giving a CMS tool where markets could upload content and it would surface on the homepage, and rather than it going through the entire filter of the headquarters approving it. So this entire workflow had to be redesigned. So again, just a quick snapshot of some of the questions that were asked when we were evolving the intranet. So questions like, I can easily locate the information that I need. The content is current and relevant. I've been kept informed about the news at Sapient. Is useful to use. It helps me collaborate. So you can see that some of these questions were broader in terms of going beyond the traditional role of what an intranet could do. And also we were looking at the user experience. So overall, I'm satisfied with how the intranet is. And based on what we got, and of course, it's from this particular snapshot, you can see that there was a dip in how employees were perceiving the internet, and that was the trigger for us to go back and revisit how we were engaging and what are the kind of content that they needed to get. So in terms of, so if I kind of then look back at the last couple of decades of the intranet journey, intranet experience that I've had, to me, there were three broad components of the success metrics or mechanics of the intranet. One is very clearly the leadership support and sponsorship. So wherever the comms team was housed or located within the CEO's office or had access to the leadership team, those were the organizations where I could clearly see that there were a lot more investment, a lot more effort, a lot more impetus for the organization to move forward on the internet. The second was the analytical approach. So again, if it was a data-driven approach, it was user-driven approach, there was a significant amount of change and momentum that we could see. And the last was, of course, the organizational dynamics. And again, I'm talking about things like culture. Is the culture really open? The culture really transparent? Are people really willing to do, to engage? And is the comms team really empowered to take things forward? And I think it's also important to call out that the communicator's passion plays a big role. So if the comms team really wanted to take things forward, they really needed to work through a lot of the internal dynamics in politics to make it work. So I believe that these are, to me, fundamentally the key three drivers in terms of making an intranet work. And I kind of spelled out some of the factors within each of these buckets. So sponsorship, like I mentioned, advocacy, the impact of it, my analytical approach, the rigor behind making sure you're tracking your data, making sure that you're going back to users and letting them know the progress and changes that you're making. And it drives a lot of credibility, not just for the team, but also for the organization. And then from the organizational standpoint, it's about the culture, about the value you get, how do you kind of integrate, how do you kind of make things consistent, and then how you're reinforcing some of the organizational messages using the intranet as a platform. If I were to summarize really my journey across the last couple of decades, and also what was the role of the communicator along the way, and again I can reflect on how I perceived the role and how it has evolved over the times. I would say that when I started out in early 2000s, I think the internet was more like a tool which you needed to promote quite heavily. So it was a lot of event led. You would try to convince people that, hey, we have a platform, we would like you to use it, and it's important and all of that. But people really didn't see the broader picture, so it was important to give them also the big picture as to where it all fits. As we moved along, I saw that it was more about adoption, getting people to be the communicator being an advocate of change, and then moving along, it was more about efficiency. How do you make sure that the intranet is really adding value and there's an ROI behind what you're doing? To more about community building, where you are thinking of collaboration, making it a learning space, enriching people's experiences, thinking about knowledge as a way of driving change. And then as we come closer to the other end of the spectrum, I would think it's more about being a super connector, also being a culture curator, because you are finally evolving and changing the culture in ways that matter. And I think the communicator has a strong role in that. And I think right now where we're heading towards, and most of the organizations are moving towards being a digital first workplace, and therefore being a digital workplace coach is a top priority for the communicator as the role they can play. Yeah, so I think that's really what I wanted to share, and wanted to get your thoughts on what you think about this journey and this experience, and any reactions you have on this presentation.
So we have another question around, what's your opinion when it comes to using intranet versus the likes of those sort of social platforms, Yammer, Viva Engage, sort of giving employees that ability to share their stories. Where do we draw the line? And with the internet evolving in the face of these new technologies, taking over some of those aspects. around the internet. You know, what's your thoughts and opinions on that?
Right. So, great question, because I think it's when employees, we need to think from the employee's perspective. And if you give employees 3 different platforms to work on or consider, they will be confused. So it's really about integrating it and making sure that, irrespective of where they land, be it the intranet or on Yammer or any other platform, they are seeing a very consistent approach to engaging with them, and it's all unified. I think that's the way forward. I've seen organizations where they have these various platforms, and based on the usage. So if it's heavily skewed towards Gen Y or Gen Z, then you would see more of Yammer being used and less of the intranet being used. So we need to be mindful of that in terms of what your demographics are within the organization and how it works.
So you're saying if you've got a younger audience, you should be skewing more towards the social media kind of type?
Absolutely. I think it's about clarifying the role of what the intranet can do, what Yammer can do, and what are the other platforms, the enterprise social platforms can do, and just making sure that everyone is clear that this is the value you will get out of it. Because I know, even for example, Teams, there are organizations who have used Teams as the only channel, and they have used Teams the Teams chat to communicate company-wide to everyone. Some organizations think that, hey, that's only meant for project teams to collaborate. So again, it is really about defining what you want to do with the platform, making sure it's all integrated and all aligned. But having them as diverse channels, and all over the place, it doesn't really help. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. Does anyone else have any other questions? We got, what do you see the role of the internet is around collaboration?
Absolutely. I think as this particular chart which I'm projecting right now shows, the role of collaboration is so crucial, and especially now when and after the pandemic, when people have got used to working from home, and organizations feel a bit uncomfortable that if they are not in the office, they are not collaborating enough. I think this platform and channel can, I think it can change the way organizations or leaders think. So it's all about getting the data and showing that, hey, that there is efficiency, there is productivity, people are able to collaborate effectively and get the results that you need, and therefore you don't need everyone in the office at the same time and get them to work 4 days a week or 5 days a week. So it's also a bit about how do you use these platforms for the right to influence how the culture is perceived within the organization.
We've also got, what's your opinion about building a mobile iPad friendly internet service that rather than that kind of web-based one?
I completely agree, because even while I worked in Tesco in 2013, and that was a time when the intranet, we kind of repurposed it as an employee app where they could have it on their phones. And that was, again, a way in which people could collaborate. And again, going back to the demographics bit, it was a very young audience at Tesco in India, and therefore they were able to adopt it faster. Secondly, the CEO was also very proactive. He was an advocate of social media, and he personally was doing videos and blogging and all of that. And therefore, it was easy to get people to understand that, yes, you can move some of these channels onto apps. And so likewise, you can repurpose it for the iPad and other things. Absolutely. So I believe it's the way forward.
I've regularly seen many intranets created, and they've not even looked at the user acceptance or what it even looks like from a mobile phone. They've not ever once gone on to SharePoint from a mobile and just gone and had a look at it. I've seen some real mess come from that. It's like, stop, just have a look at it across the various platforms. I think it's important. If there are no other questions, well, thank you for coming in, Aniisu, and giving us a bit of insight into your your world. Follow on LinkedIn. There's always lots of great content. He's got lots of great content online. So do appreciate you coming to have a chat with us. If there are any other questions, please feel free to type them into chat. We can, Aniisu can always answer them in there. So let me just go back and It's moving around. See any questions that come in. Okay, now are we ready? What's actually been happening across adoption and Microsoft 365? December and January, I was kind of hoping Microsoft might take a little bit of a holiday and a break, but they didn't. Said right back, maybe before I started recording, I think they doubled down on us. So much stuff. I think, you know, with all of the things that have actually been sort of sent out there around the world, they're backing it up with a lot of content and a lot of help and support. So we saw a lot of blogs and a lot of information, especially go up onto the adoption page. I've got more information, I think, around adoption this month than I have in the 6-7 years that I've actually been doing this user group. Actually, it's coming to the 9th year. I really shouldn't say 6-7, but just so you know, the recording, as I said, it does go live up onto the adoption channel, so you can go in and have a look on there. We have over 140 videos now on the Collab Talk where we answer questions. That's when the ones that I'm included in. There are hundreds and hundreds of other ones, so if you want to go and have a look at Collab Talk on YouTube, we did last week a live session. So there was 10 of us. We're all community experts that came together to answer questions that are out there in the community and live answer your questions. So we're going to be doing that every quarter and getting together to discuss things that we think that might actually help you. Now, the release notes around adoption, as you can see, since December, so much stuff went online. Go and have a look, go and have a click around. Just a bit of a note and a warning, if you do click on the newsletters, the link is actually incorrect. It's spelt incorrect. Instead of newsletter, it's newsletter. So it doesn't go to the right page if you do go click on. So it's actually up the top over here, so you can see. I'll just say you go updates. You'll see it throughout. So anything that says the WorkLab newsletter, the links are wrong. Okay. The Champions Call was actually recently done. So Caruana, comes online, talks about all things that are actually new, such as, what's happening on around Copilot. You can go watch that recording. You can even go download the presentation. There's some good content in there to be able to utilise. The next one is actually going to be on Feb 27th, which for us in Australia is the 28th in early hours of the morning if you want to watch it, or you can just watch the recording afterwards. Now, Caruana has recently put out a wrapping up of 2023, and in there, and I'm going to reiterate this for you, invest some time in yourself. Go and learn some of the new technologies, click on, spend some time. So much has happened over the last year between all of the Viva Engage and Viva products, for example, let alone Copilot and everything else that's actually been happening. SharePoint Premium, Teams Premium, you think about all the things that came out, over the 2023 banner, there was a lot there. Okay, so spend some time and get in and start learning so that you're not being left behind. Now, they also have a community call that's actually run on Tuesdays, so feel free to join that. Of course, it's at 3 a.m. our time. I generally go back and watch the recordings after the fact, but that's usually with Heather and Caruana. So Heather Cook is actually an ex-MVP. And has some great insights now that she's inside the organisation. Now, the Getting Started page, if you do a click down on any of the content up the top, it will actually tell you information that's new. Have a look. When I say I've never seen it going so hard, it's going really hard at the moment. There's a lot happening across this space. So we've got things like an other content. So that's just the pages, let alone information that's underneath pages that we've had there for some time as well. So there's some great new stories that have actually gone on to the Insights adoption page, as well as the ebook. I particularly like the organizational network analysis. Go in, have a look, have a read. In that analysis, the two things, the main thing it's really talking about is, building what we call strong ties and or diverse ties, and how we're kind of bringing people together when it comes to our social capital. go and have a read of it. I found it quite an interesting take. It's not a way that I really looked at it before, but I did really like it. So this over here is in regards to, you know, those stronger ties and what does it look like in being able to measure those stronger ties. Now this comes from a lot of analysis. So you've got Viva Insights, and you can do, if you've paid for some of the solution, you'll be able to start getting stuck in and really seeing the difference between a strong and a diverse tie, and do you even have them inside the business? Something to keep in mind, especially if you've got the Viva Insights, you've got the subscription for it. Okay. There's some new resources gone up onto the Microsoft lists page. They've put together and dropped in all of the recent blogs, so it's in one place to be able to go. Love it. Underneath the resource library, all the videos are being poured in. I like that. Now the demos on here. The demos have been around for a little while, and it goes to an online kind of Azure-based live demo environment. Now, the problem is the links are broken at the moment. Now, because everyone going through all this content every month, the team get hounded and harassed by me going broken. So I go into my MVP group and go, needs to be fixed. So yeah, they are on it. If you see them broken at the moment, please take a moment. Hopefully they will be fixed up for you before too long. Okay. Now, Microsoft have put up online the onboarding kit. I did like it. I went into the onboarding kit and I did the download of the onboarding kit. So over on the right-hand side here, you can actually see it gives you a weekly email to be able to send out. Now, that's as if, of course, you're taking on Copilot. If you've not taken on Copilot, I would highly recommend it. I've been doing quite a bit and really diving into it and trying to understand it. Now, it's still, especially after Craig was in last month, it still is a little in its infancy in some respects. Like in PowerPoint, for example, themes and so those color type things hasn't kind of been brought into Copilot to draw on. But what I did like is it gives you step by step. So kind of revealing sometimes functionality that people aren't used to. So there was a few things there. Loved it in Outlook. I've got it here. I've got it up and running now in my tenant. We got given a MVP sandbox to be able to play in. It's no longer required for 300 and above. Anyone from one person up could actually take it on. Was it cheap? For me, I have an E5 license for one person. No, it was $538 for the year. I kind of go, for a small business, is it actually worth it? I was looking into it and I thought, you know what, if this saves me 5 minutes a day, it becomes worth it. Because you look at my rate times it by 5 minutes in a day, and you do that over 240 odd working days, it far exceeded in benefit. So you have a look at it and think of it a bit like that if you're going to go into it. So now this email that goes out every week gives you a bit of an idea. You get given, one, the email, and two, the images that are in the email. So if you wanted to, you could also take them and put them up onto your intranet as well. So you could drop those in. Copilot for Sales has come in. Now, look, I'm on the M365 space. I'm not really on the Dynamics sort of side of things. There is a Dynamics and a Salesforce. But the reason I actually brought it in is, apart from that fact, I mean, if you're an adoption manager, and we are adoption, a lot of people focused on adoption here, what I particularly liked is, if you're inside a business and you do have either of those products, it's very integrated across 365. So you think about, Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, Microsoft Teams, OneNote, all these technologies, it's all very integrated. So if you've got a sales system that's integrated into that, which often we do into Teams or into Outlook or wherever, then you're going to see it come up all over the place. So sales is now coming and jogging in. Have a look. There's actually in there a demo, where is it? The click-through demo. I went through the click-through demo, love it. It's actually rather cool. Go and see what it can do. Okay. Okay, so there is a Microsoft Content Management call coming up. You can actually register for details to be sent through. We did talk about this previously. In the past, it actually had the e-signature, which is when I brought it in and we started to talk about it. But now it's talking about things like the Graph and Copilot and some of those sorts of things as SharePoint getting into the premium side. So go sign up, keep up to date. The community call is coming up on Feb 28. It is at 5 a.m. if you're interested in joining, and that's going to be focused on the e-signature component of SharePoint. Microsoft Teams Premium has its own new page with lots of great content in there. Go in, have a look. The thing that I particularly liked that you could actually download was there's a premium, there's a user guide in there. And that user guide, so this is the table of contents I've dropped in. So with the user guide, when you have a look through it, this this PDF, it's 77 pages long, but it's actually, sorry, not a PDF, it's a PowerPoint, a live PowerPoint. So when you download that PowerPoint, if you wanted some training content around premium, you've got so much content there, just pull it down. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. If you have to have custom screenshots, at least you'll know exactly what screenshot you need to take inside your own business. But all that wording, it's all there for you. 77 pages of it, go for it. There is a new intelligent meeting recap if you do have Teams Premium. So it's got some videos that you could actually play, and or the link for each of these you could plug into your own system, embed them into a SharePoint part to be able to help people understand how to do these various components when it comes to the likes of Copilot and Teams Premium and everything kind of coming in and joining together. SharePoint Premium has a new page, lots of content. Go in, start downloading some stuff, put it there, have it ready. Of course, as it gets up to date, you'll need to replace it, but some great content. Have a look across the business user. It's got the training side of information, let alone what we can actually do as adoption specialists. Then there's also the demos, some great demos in there. Don't forget, SharePoint Premium, it does plug into other content such as your Microsoft Syntex, for example, because that's kind of what it was, but it's now called SharePoint Premium. So if you see Syntex, don't get confused. It's just it's kind of the old naming convention. Yeah. There's Microsoft Planner now in terms of frontline workers. There are different features that have come into play for frontline workers to be able to help and support. You can sign up. So if you are living in the frontline space, go and have a look and see what's actually going on in Planner and how it's working for frontline workers. There's a Copilot for Microsoft 365 page. Go and download that kit on its main page is the one that kind of I showed you before, the download the kit. There's it's repeated down here as well, so it's one and the same. If you're looking at those, is it different? No, it's not. But there's a great news piece there. It's how to become an AI powered organization. So some good content. I'll show you that in just a sec. So what's new when you go into the adoption side of things, it's got what's new. Go in and have a look, and it's showing you all that new content. But what I love is on my mobile phone, you can actually download Copilot for free and use Copilot for free on your mobile phone, by the way, guys. So go and download it. You can log in as a personal or you can log in as a business if it'll allow you to, but you can go and log in and you can actually use Copilot, which has DALL-E, for example, and other image creators and some cool stuff on your mobile phone. Go and have a play around with it. Okay. There's Copilot Pro. Now, Copilot Pro has actually come out for the personal and the family subscribers. So this is on your personal side. Now, I brought this in because often if we're using it from a personal standpoint, it can flow over into our work and help us to understand from work. So then we're kind of using it for different scenarios. It is $20 per month per user in Pro. Now, that is US dollars. So it'll be closer to what, 30 or 34, 5, something like that per user per month. So I wouldn't say it's particularly cheap, but rather valuable. So depending on what you actually do, it's got that mobile app in there. It's got all the GPTs, the image creation, everything. So there's a little video there on getting started, how to actually use it and why would you use it. So that's the kind of the light version of Copilot rather than the enterprise version. There's now also a Copilot for the small and medium businesses as well. So there's a new page that's gone up around Copilot for those that might live in the sort of the smaller side of things, and you can purchase between 1 to 300 seats. So that's for those small to medium businesses up to 300 seats, and it's 30 per person per month, US dollars. Now, there is a community call coming up around small and medium businesses. So if you're one in an organisation that's a little smaller, or maybe you're a partner that looks after small and medium businesses, maybe they might like to go on that particular call or potentially watch the recording afterwards now, but it is available for those that have got those particular licenses. There's a celebrating the first year of Copilot and what are all the significant new innovations. Go and have a look at what's actually out there, what's coming new. Don't forget that OpenAI is actually owned by Microsoft. So a lot of this stuff is all kind of converging and coming together. If you're feeling a little frightened by it all, look, I kind of get it, but embrace it, because until you kind of get in and think of it in its simplistic terms of, we've been using search and asking search, and we've got some pretty big search, and we've been asking our mobile phone to find things for us for ages. Hey Siri, or hey Alexa, or hey Google. It's no different. We're just using, we're just coming at it from a little bit of a different perspective. It's not about AI, it's about trust. So there is a PDF. I would go in and have a look. This was one that Caruana has actually put out there, a bit of a newsletter. And I did like some of the wording and the ways that it was actually pitched on how we can think about people first when it comes to AI. One to go and have a read. Sorry. And I said Siri, didn't I? She's listening and trying to work out what I want. It's the problem with saying, hey Siri. Now I'm going to do it again. I have to turn it off. Okay. On Microsoft Mechanics, it's got a how to get ready for Copilot and what are the updates for 2024. So there's a good video in there to have a little bit of a watch. Now, this is on the IT professional side. If you're going on the Copilot page, it's not under adoption, it is under IT professional. But I would recommend going and having a watch of this one. It's got some really interesting information that might help you to sort of untangle it a little bit more. Now, the Microsoft Live Event Assistance Program, it has actually been extended through to June 30, 2024 to up to 20,000 attendees. From the 10, it's been extended a little longer. You can host 50 events simultaneously in the duration of up to 16 hours. So that's just had a bit of an extension. It's been around for a little while, and they're making sure that you can still do it. Microsoft Teams Phone has its own new page. Go in, download lots of information in there. The getting started with Teams phone videos. Now, I've used this quite a bit. Right back, you'll see here, last updated September 27, and has been around for a little while. You'll see up to 2 years ago. Not sure if you're familiar with it, and it's there, but if you are rolling out Teams phone, some great videos. I plugged all these videos into a SharePoint site recently for someone, for an organisation I was working with that were rolling out Teams phone, and they were clicked on very heavily. Don't reinvent the wheel. You don't need to create them yourself. There's some great content there. Just use what's available, and Microsoft keeps this up to date. Okay. Microsoft did the advanced content management community calls that we talked about a little bit earlier. You can go in, and this is where you can kind of watch the previous sessions if you're not sure, but the new one is coming up, which I talked about, the e-signature, so you can go and actually register for it. So this is the page around registering for it. So Stephen, yes, these slides are all available. I've pinned in the chat the presentation link, so you can always go back into the presentation. Viva Glint has got an Ask the Experts coming up very soon. So Feb 6, that's today, but for the US time, it'll actually be early hours of tomorrow morning. if you're wanting to get on the Ask the Experts session. So that's actually coming up around engagement survey design. Now, the 5 new habits that'll get the most out of AI. This is a piece, and this is a link to it up the top. So that particular link to an online newsletter, some great content in there. Now, it was interviewing, a ton of people as part of the global survey. Now, we've had it, and I've always said for some time, we spend sort of 26% of our time searching for information. So if Copilot can actually reduce down how much time even we're just searching, it'll make life much easier. But what I did like in there, some of the habits were that reset your brain from command mode to conversation mode. Because often we've just gone, I want that. Instead, now we need to change the wording a little. And this is something that as specialists, we are going to have to educate our audience around when it comes to what they type in for Copilot to get the best results out of it. And what I did particularly like, and there's a ton of great information in there, but the other core point was that psychological safety in terms of the reducing stress on people. Even things like taking notes inside meetings, for example, rather than that anxiety of trying to capture everything and you're too busy trying to type it and you haven't heard things that are being said, it was actually then provided and available for them automatically as part of Teams Premium and or Copilot summarize the meeting based on a transcript. Now, of course, that needs to be turned on. Okay, there's a lot more content in there. Now we're getting to what's coming in Microsoft 365. Doesn't this normally take me about 45 minutes to get through just this content? Just the 365 content? Yes. And I said there's a lot that's gone out. There's a lot that's gone out, guys. So bear with us as we move our way through the gazillion 100 pages we've got next. No, it's not quite 100, but getting close. Okay, so what's happening now, the sharing controls across the Microsoft 365 app. So this is across web, desktop and mobile, across them all. It's actually having a little bit of an update in the way that it's actually doing the invite flow now instead of that just updating the send. So they're updating the send email experience, because there was a little bit of confusion and people were panicking after pressing the send button. Now, instead of saying send, it's going to have the word invite. So that's kind of coming in and saying invite now. It has adjusted a little bit around, plus at the end, it's now going to give you a bit of a summary as to what it's actually done for you. So it can kind of reduce down some of those stress where they go, hang on, what did I send them? So it's got that little pop-up. So some of the latest updates for Copilot. Now on the support page, the Microsoft support page, so this is support.microsoft.com. It has lots of information around now Copilot and the updates that are going to be, and you can go and explore what Copilot is doing across all of those products. So it's got some good information in there. Down the very bottom, it has also all of the updates. So if you want to see what's coming out for Copilot, it is dropping those updates on that page. So some of those updates, these are some of the things that have just been recent. This is just January. Okay, so here's January, here's February, and then we've got some more on the next page. So if you want to know, it is moving somewhat quickly. So if you're not seeing something now, they are trying to push it out fairly quickly, and as this evolves, more and more will come out, and as MVPs we're speaking with the teams around the things that we're seeing and what we would like to have, and we just recently did calls around, Copilot with the PowerPoint team. Okay, so if you do have anything that you want to feedback, please forward feedback to me. Okay, this is bringing in things like the search functionality into Copilot using your slash, summarizing, flowing into Outlook, lots of different prompts, so you can see what's coming through. Okay. Also, we've now, of course, Copilot is in the Viva Engage, so it's in public preview now across Viva Engage, so you can actually go in, and now it depends on the subscription. Let me clarify that. It depends on the subscription you've got. So it's for those that have subscribed to the Viva Suite and or got the employee communications and community customers subscription. So you can do kind of, one or the other. So Copilot comes into that a little bit more. Now, I've put in there from that particular page some of the suggested prompts, because I do get asked this a lot. Well, what would I say to it? Especially as I go to do training and helping out organisations. I don't know, what do I ask? I don't even know what to ask. Then ask in a natural language, do it in a proper sentence, and then you can also clean things up afterwards as well. So you can go, make it a draft, and then you go, oh, it's too busy, make it less formal, or make it informal, or make it funny, or I've done where I said, make it with cooking, baking acronyms. So it converted it all over into all these baking. It was very cool. I had some fun with it. So, hey, you know, go in, have some fun. It'll change the wording around and put it into like a recipe for you. Microsoft Copilot, the dashboard. So the dashboard now for Viva Insights. So this is a Copilot dashboard for Viva Insight licensed customers. So it goes down and gives some more granular views around things like usage patterns, the functional roles, user sentiment, how they're actually going. This is coming out fairly soon for Copilot, so that's then flowing into the reporting. There's also across the 365 space new engagement metrics that are actually being enabled to be able to help and support you around its usage. Things like, you know, is it enabled? Have we got active users? Is it the first time that they've used it? Are they returning? The key usage type metrics for the app. So all of this is now coming in to an overview up the very top if you've got access to your reporting. If you don't and you live across this space, go find out who your administrator is and go get your adoption report reader enabled for you so that you can go in and see the reporting, or you can just get a reader. You can get a couple of different reader roles. So one of them is adoption, but there's others. So you know, you can have a chat with them around which one you're actually getting so that you haven't got access to certain things in the administrative portal. Okay. The what's new to Teams, also there are some great new innovations that come into Microsoft Teams for retail workers. So if you do live in that frontline space, across, you know, Viva Engage, some great new information of Viva Engage in terms of Viva connections, using the walkie-talkie, updates across the walkie-talkie. If you want to kind of go, well, what's been going on over that last year? It's got a really good summary of all of the really cool features and functionality to be able to help do a bit of learning and education there. We've now got flowing into Teams domain-specific search. So we have now some more buttons and information that's actually coming into play, as well as the find in this chat. So you can kind of go, if you click on the chat, it then goes, hang on a second, I know where you're sitting. And then it will start to search within that if you do your Control F directly off the back of it. But the main thing is it helps to understand where you are and doing searching across where you are currently sitting. There's a group chat call confirmation. So a lot of times we see where people are accidentally kicking off a call with the group. It says, hang on a second, you're about to call 20 people. Do you really want to go ahead with this? So it's just putting a little bit of stopper between you and accidentally pressing a button with this call confirm. The other thing, it's got suggested files coming into play for our one-on-one chats. So then that way it says, hang on a second, you started to chat about this. Here's a file suggestion, tap on, you know, the share file. There is some new webinar and town hall templates that have now been, they've actually been added in as an Outlook Teams add-in. So when you come in and you go, I want to do a new Teams meeting, we could do it previously in our Teams environment with the drop down. But now that's actually coming in as part of the tab in a drop down in Outlook. So it's an add-in. It's one that will need to be enabled and pushed out for your business as an add-in. Okay. The decorating the background. I've decorated my background. thought I might go in and show you and do a bit of a clean up. So new feature that's come into play, that when you go and click on your effects and avatars, you can go click on your decorate, and there's some fun ones there where you can go, you know, clean up, fancy. I went fancy. This is not my environment. If you've seen some of my environment in the past, I can just show you what it's done, because every environment will be different because it's using AI. It's looking at your background. So let me show you video effects, and I'm just going to go none, apply. So this is my background. If you've not seen me before in my background, I think I've had it off before. So what I've done is I've gone in, I've said decorate. I then come back and said, you know, fancy instead of clean up. It generates 2 for you, and I apply and save. Now, if you've done more than, if you've come back in and you've had a look at the different ones, celebration is kind of party, of course, greenhouse, so it'll have all plants and things like that, and fancy, or just do a general clean up. So that's what I did. So here is my background. Let me bring it back again. There you go. It's cleaned up my background and made me all rather fancy. So that's what I've done. Had a bit of a fun with it. So if you've got a messy background behind you, you can just do clean up and it will adjust them. So these are some of the different ones in the video to show you. Forwarding chat messages. So you can actually now forward those to one-on-one or group chat. So you have a forward button. Now you can, as part of that team, and if you are the owner, you can actually say whether they can or can't forward those chat messages, by the way. There is, we've talked about the gallery enhancements. There's been a few different enhancements coming in from gallery. So gallery enhancements has actually rolled out where you can choose in the gallery to be able to see up to 49 people, so it kind of makes it a little bit smaller. At the moment, as I've got it set to the gallery, I think it's only set to max gallery size. I'm X16, but I can change it and go show me all 49. So everyone kind of gets a little bit smaller. So you can see it here. Not that anyone's got their video on, but you can see I can now see everyone all on one screen. So that's that. Let's bring chat back up just in case you start chatting with me. What's up? Next one is that they created it where when you turn it into a Teams meeting, they're making the join button, that join meeting now, it's actually becoming a little larger. So it's making it a little bit more prominent when it comes to join the meeting now button. Not only that, but it's reducing down and shortening the link. If you remember in the past, you looked at it, had quite a long link. So they've now reduced down that link. So it's not as big and complex as what it used to be. I'm liking that shortened link. They're also simplifying the join meetings experience. Now, one of the challenges was if you have Teams and you're in as a business, so you've got your org, your work or school account, and then you've got a personal account as well. Or maybe you don't have Teams in, or you've got Teams in personal. What you can do is the two now, if you're inviting someone that doesn't have an organisational, and you invite the personal account or the other way, it will actually use the either or when it comes to Teams. So it's kind of joining the two together to be able to work. Okay. And just make sure, we need to make sure everyone's on mute. Let me just take mute checker. There we go. Okay. So you're no longer then prompted to join via browser, because if you've got Teams and you've got it on your desktop, whether it's a business version or personal version, it's not going to force you to go to the browser, which then treats you then as anonymous coming in through the browser. So it now starts to recognise the individual user as they come in based on whichever one they're signed into in Teams as an application on the desktop. There are some efficiencies coming in around audio and video flyout. So the controls now are going to be sitting underneath the drop down on camera. So you'll see it's actually changing a little, and under mic, you'll have then the drop down under mic to be able to work with. They look a little different now compared to what they're going to look like in future. So if you ever have a look at those drop downs, you'll be able to see the different ones in the drop downs, and you can have a look at it right now in Teams. So we're going to have some changes flowing in. Okay. There are some new layouts when it comes to together mode, especially when you're sharing. There was some frustration around being in together mode when it came to sharing content. Now what it's doing to help with those things like gaze misalignment and the exhaustion, together mode was put into play to be able to remove all of the background and help and support those with accessibility issues and diversity and a few other things. So now that preview is coming in together mode, where it's bringing people down the bottom and it's still got those background removal going on, but in a horizontal pane. There's the Discover feed coming through into channels. So up the top, you'll see a Discover. And as part of that, it's a personalized feed. So you can actually tell it, was it useful or helpful in bringing information to you? So things will be in context and you can go yes or no, so that it will feed things directly for you as part of the discovery to be able to help. Okay, so that's that new Discover feed. Teams chat embedding into Outlook Web. So if you're online, so this is Outlook Online, so if you're in Outlook Web, the Teams chat is going to embed as an experience, so it will kind of pop up and coming through, and that way you don't have to leave Outlook to continue on in conversations around Teams. They're bringing the two together through the web. I'm liking that one, rolling out now. There are 6 languages for live translation captions during the town hall, so you don't need to have necessarily premium accounts for that. So you can now choose 6 languages to be able to support. Okay. There is also the introducing the ability to duplicate current and existing town halls and or webinars. This is great. So you don't have to actually redo them again and again. You can actually copy and paste them. That was always an issue in the past because sometimes these things can be, especially when you're doing them regularly, it can be quite a bit of work. So I do like that feature and functionality. So it's not coming out just for a little bit more yet, but it will come. You can right click and say duplicate the event, or you can actually go into the event and it'll actually have a duplicate button that sits up the top. Another one is you've got these informed meeting options for the webinars, so that when it comes to the organisations, they're no longer going to be sent to the web page to turn on and off those meeting options. You may have seen it for your Teams meetings. Sometimes your options will do a pop-up window for you to get your pop-ups, and then depending on if you click down the bottom link in terms of meeting options, it'll take you to a browser page. Well, for webinars and town halls, it always went to a browser page. Now it's going to give you those pop-ups. So I do like the fact that it's now kind of contained within the environment to support us. You can now reorder registration questions for your webinars. In the past, you had to make sure you put them in the order that you wanted to, and you couldn't reorder them. So if you had them in the wrong order and you missed a question, you literally would have to delete them and start again. Now you can just reorder them. Hallelujah. I'm rather thankful that one's come into play. The amount of times I've gone, oh, I forgot to put in last name, or, you know, email, I forgot the email, and I'm already 3/4 of the way through. Joyce. Now this one, oh, controversial. There's so much going on online in regards to this. There's a lot of people going up in arms around the way that files are going to be opened when it comes to Classic Teams. Now, Classic Teams, by the way, if you're not familiar and you haven't actually used the new Teams yet, as of the end of the month for March, the Classic Teams will no longer be used. Okay, so it's not going to be utilised anymore. You have to use the new Teams. If you've not taken your end users on that journey, I would highly recommend, because you've got what, 7 odd weeks left, because they can't use the Classic Teams anymore. Okay, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But the way that the file behaviour is opening, they're changing a few things around. So if, you know, when you've got files coming in, it's going to actually open in the browser instead of the app inside Teams. So files that were not pinned in, and the experience and the way that you co-author, it's going to take you to a browser. It's going to frustrate a few people because they're going to go, hang on a second, but I want it have it opening to the desktop app. That's not going to happen. It's actually about it's a bit of a safety security thing that's come into play. Now, there's a couple of other things, because with OneNote books, there is a temporary behavior change that's going to happen. Do we communicate it? Do we frustrate our users? Look, you'll know your audience better than me as to what you need to educate them on around this particular one. Tags are now going to be supported across both private and shared channels. Finally, we could use tags. If you're not familiar, tags means that in a group of 20, you can do a tag and you can mention 5 people that might be to do with a particular topic, for example. And you couldn't do it in private or shared channels. Now that is actually changing, so that's flowing through right now to be able to create tags and use. The private and shared channel links. So they'll now be able to share links to private and shared channels for posts and for other members that are in that channel. So in the past, you couldn't actually do links to it. It was very difficult because it was just saying we don't want to be sending out accidental links to something that was classed as private and confidential. Okay. I'm using the new Teams and Open Files in the desktop app. It's a setting you can change. Yes, Melinda, that's correct. It is. And there are some changes that are coming through around that as well. So I'll talk about some of that coming up in a sec. Okay. The meeting recording and transcript tab. Now, this one, and especially if you've got screenshots in your training, it's going to be replaced by the recap tab. So that's coming in. Now, for the meetings that do not have the recap tab, you continue to actually use the recording and transcript tab, but it is going to change over so that you'll be able to review them under the new recap. It's going to be removed. There are some changes coming there. The channel creation. Now, I have talked about this on a previous session. There's going to be a plus button that's going up the top of Teams to go create a new team. In there is now also going to be create the channel. So you click on the team that you actually want. So if it's going to be that particular team and you want a channel in that team, click on the team that you want, then you can go to the plus button and go create a new channel so they can have it in the place of choice. Okay, so it's going to make it easier. You can still do create the channel with the ellipsis button, but there's the plus button up the top as well. Now, the activity feed is going to have calendar notifications coming into it. So if your activity feed wasn't busy enough before, now you're going to have meetings, things that are in your calendar are going to flow through into the feed now. So invites, updates, cancellations, forwards, they're all going to show up in your activity feed. And like everything, when it comes to notifications, you can adjust your notifications in your Teams settings as you need to. Okay. Oh, by the way, the one thing I do love about it, this is what I have loved about having it in there now, is with that notification, you can physically click on the notification. It will show you the meeting invite through your activity feed without you having to leave and go to the calendar, go have a look. Photos. Share contact information in terms of Teams chat. So you can actually share like the contact card. So you can send through, see here, go, maybe you want to have a chat with John in sales, for example. You can actually share the contact card. Of course, it's got to be like all things. It's the ID and your information exchange and, identities and everything has to be, somewhat neat so that you can go add and share that contact card inside the business. So flowing through. The meeting participants time zone. So flowing in, it's going to take a while for this one to come out over the space of a couple of months. So as you add people in, what you can do is you can actually see running down the right hand side here of their name, their time zone, so that when you choose one, you can go, oh, hang on a second, they're 2 hours behind, or they're 18 forward because they're in some country overseas. So I'm actually liking that. I am dreadful. I'm dreadful with time zones. You think I'd be better having been an ex-EA, but I'm really not. It was the one thing I truly did suck at. So if I get your time zone wrong on any meeting and I rocked up at the wrong time, I'll apologise now. Okay. Allowing our meeting participants to be able to create collaborative notes. Now, in the past, it was always the organiser that could create those collaborative notes, and no one else could. Whereas now, those that are actually invited in the meeting can do it before, during, or after. Okay, so then they're accessible for everyone that's in that meeting. So your agenda, your notes, your follow-ups, they're all tasks that are in a loop component, and you can copy those, so you can put them over into chat, emails, you can drop them into OneNote, because it is a loop component. Loop components are plug and play across so many of our applications, whiteboard and other things. So I am liking that. So then they can help to, you know, plug and play and organise. There is some external access analytics now coming in for Microsoft Teams to be able to help us know the number of internal, external users that are out leveraging that external access. Now, this is under the Teams Admin Center, so you will need to have administration rights. So if you've got those report reader rights, or you've got the adoption specialist rights in the Admin Center, you're then going to be able to see what's going on, and are people actually inviting in external users? Are we using it correctly? Cross fingers. You know, if you're not got external users on at all, you shouldn't actually see anything in here. Okay. A detailed call history update. Now, forwarded calls are actually coming into, if you've missed a call and you've got auto call forwarding in the past, it wasn't actually coming in. Now you're going to be able to see that when it's gone into the forwarding. I do like that. Okay. Now in Teams, now this is a bit of a frontline piece, by the way. So for frontline, there can be, based on the admin center and set up as well through the owners and making sure that it's available, automatic tag can be put into place when there's attribute mapping done, so that your frontline staff can actually @mention based on a job title or a department. So if you're a frontline employee, you can go at the storeroom, for example, or, you know, so you, and then it might be 4 people in the storeroom. I need something urgently out front, and you can @mention. That's flowing through. It's a good one. Oh, they're all good. The web, this is another controversial one. Changes to the website tab. This one, if you look online, there's a lot of fighting going on around this, okay? Because Microsoft is actually going to retire the ability, when it comes to websites, to load inside the Teams client. I can't say I'm a fan with them taking it away. I used to have in there, for example, I would put the, you know, the Microsoft Learning productivity library, and the web page would be inside Teams. I'd plug it in as a website, and people could actually go to it and click around. Now that is actually changing. So when you go to a website link and you click on it, it's going to open it up into a browser tab instead. So this coming into play because of security and some of the privacy and the reliability of certain websites and opening, and with them being, you know, blocked by businesses, for example. So that's actually changing. They're not allowing it to be able to load inside Teams. Makes it a little tougher because we'd like to do the, you know, Teams as the one-stop shop to be able to go and do all the things that you would like to do. If there is an app, then plug it in through the app. I know, Melinda, it is, isn't it? I don't disagree with you there. I'm really disappointed in the decision, to say the least. I think there'll be a lot of cages rattled over this one. To go, we'll just make it more secure, frankly. We'll see what happens. I'll keep a close eye and I'll keep you up to date if something changes on that one. I'm going to be over. I'm doing the Microsoft MVP Summit. I am off to Seattle in March, mid-March, from the 9th to the 18th, and I will be sitting down with teams, and it will be interesting to see, because MVPs are particularly vocal, and you get, you know, 1,000 of us or so together in one place. We get loud. So we'll see what happens off the back of it. Anyway, so I put in over on the right-hand side, you know, what could you do potentially instead? If there is an app, use the app. So for Twitter, for example, or something, if there was a particular app, you might need to do a subscription to the app to be able to do that kind of URL through the app. If you are, you know, pinning the SharePoint page if you do it through the app rather than the URL, because the URL will push you to the website through the browser. So you use the app instead. Okay, so they're the sort of things you might want to do as a recommendation. There is a page there to kind of help you around those updates, what it means and why. Don't like it. Anyway, mute is actually coming to the Windows taskbar for Teams. So your microphone, you'll see it in the bottom right-hand corner. When you go and click on mute, it will actually work for Teams for you to be able to turn it on and off. And the Windows key, Windows Alt K, to be able to mute your microphone or the volume from your microphone on your desktop will work with Teams, so they're kind of joining together. It will take a while for it to roll out with Windows for everyone, and of course it will depend on what version of Windows you've actually got. Okay. The general channel. This one I think is going to be a bit of a love. Hiding the general channel. There's so many people that go, can I get rid of the general channel? Well, no, it's stuck there. That is not the case anymore. Yes, you can hide the general channel. I'm in two minds about this because a lot of people don't use the general channel properly in the first place. So it's an education piece. A lot of times the general channel is where we're putting information where we're not sure who it should go to or overarching general knowledge or announcements. So if they hide it, it then gets a little harder sometimes to get information through to people. But you can hide and unhide. Now, if the general channel is the only channel, then of course it's going to, start doing things like hide the team. Okay, but you can go back in and unhide. That's across all of the platforms, by the way. You can hide. Content camera coming into new teams. Finally, the one thing about the new teams, and considering we are going to have to use it come, after the 31st of March, there is still some features to get sort of those feature parity for Teams Classic. Some stuff is still not there. The fact this one's flowing through, great. So you can do it where you've got your whiteboards or documents or whatever that looks like, or and maybe you're in a meeting room. If you walk in front of it, now this came out a long time ago in Classic, the new and improved content camera is now in play in Teams. Now the archiving of channels, owners and administrators can archive a channel and then avoid the activity on them, but it can also be restored. So channel members are not going to be able to take any actions on a particular channel. So this is just for the channel, not archiving the team. So you can archive a channel now. So, and you can go back in and unarchive when you manage the teams. Okay. There is for Teams Premium, so this is a premium option, where as part of a meeting policy, you can actually turn off copying and forwarding of information from the meeting chat. So that will also depend on the sensitivity label as well that you might have in play around meetings. So it depends on what it is you've got around those templates, but you can now put into play turning off copying and forwarding. Okay, so as part of our activity card, you can actually go in and you control now through the ellipsis to be able to say, do you want kind of all notifications turned off for this type of thing? So you can do it now through your activity sort of center. Okay. Opening files. Now, it took me a bit. I was reading this one and it took me about 3 or 4 reads of this particular newsletter to understand what was going on here. I don't know why it just wasn't sinking in at the time, because I'm going, hang on a second, we've been able to open things up in the app, for ages. It kind of goes open to the desktop or open to the browser or open in Teams, or I'm going, I couldn't work out what was different. The wording, I don't know if it's the wording of the newsletter or not, but eventually it clicked. So for OneDrive and SharePoint, and I've reduced all the content on the page, there's a lot there, by the way, reduced it all down to go, if you want to open files like PDFs, JPEGs, or MP4s, you can now have them go open it in Adobe Acrobat or open it in, whatever movie maker or whatever it is that you're using. And it'll be whatever you've assigned as your standard application that you use for that particular file type. So that I distilled down. it's going to open now in its native applications. That I do particularly like. There is a lot of tips now that OneDrive, we've been talking about OneDrive for quite some time, some of the changes coming. I particularly loved this newsletter. It's a great training newsletter that you could actually use on a 10 essential tips when it comes to OneDrive. Have a look at it. There is a view and edit mode toggle coming into Stream so that you can give permissions for your users around what can you do for title, description, chapters, transcripts and things like that. So inside Stream and as part of the SharePoint piece, it's all kind of coming together. SharePoint, Stream and Forms to be able to drop in now your surveys, polls and quizzes at specific times throughout that video stream. Now we had that in the Classic, it's now come in. Same with the hyperlink and text callouts at specific times. New to Stream for SharePoint, not so new as a concept. The SharePoint Premium actually has community calls. If you haven't seen them previously, you can go watch the recordings online. There is a new one coming. There is new ones going up all the time. The new one hasn't gone in yet, but you can go watch the previous. SharePoint. Now, a lot of what's on here we've touched on previously, so I'll skip through lots of stuff in the December and Jan because we have touched on it before. So it's only a couple of things that I think that are of value that we will look at. So Jan, December, Jan. Okay. Document translations. Now this means that you can bulk choose a ton of files, preserving its format, and actually translate them. This is a great one in terms of SharePoint, and you can also do it for video transcriptions. And if you've got any closed captioning turned on, to be able to do up to bulk translations. SharePoint News for email. The two are kind of flowing together. So these new templates are coming into play. So you can actually create custom templates and be able to do wider posts. So they then flow through and you can go say, I want to choose how many views and are they kind of clicking on the links from the email that gives you the metrics flowing through to our SharePoint so that we have a bit of an idea. Are we getting our audience interaction based on the email going to SharePoint when we create it in SharePoint? You can do an automatic email that flows through to Outlook. That makes sense. There's also creating of custom document library templates. So that way you can actually use both the list templates. So these are the templates here. So you've got based on the 101, 100s, the library and the list templates. You can create your own custom templates and actually have them in there from yourself or then your custom ones from your organization to be able to quickly and easily have standards for the business. So creating those custom. Now Loop is transitioning over to the cloud.microsoft domain. So if you've got, and because it's an auto transition, it's going to do it for you. If you've got any content anywhere, like go and log into loop.microsoft.com, you're going to need to change that on a SharePoint page, for example, or any e-learning or training presentations. So that's actually having a change. So it's now folding in to the 365 environment. Whiteboard, delete the page. Blank, everyone, nothing new. What's new to Forms? Now, this one we're going to touch on kind of both here a little bit as well as in the Excel piece. There's another piece coming up in terms of the live syncing, but you can now migrate your Google Forms over to Microsoft Forms in the admin center. So if you're on that journey from Google to Microsoft, yes, you can. Okay, so you can actually migrate now. Practice mode is available when it comes to forms. Now, this is actually for quizzes only. So it then can go in, someone can go in and go, I want to do a bit of a practice of it first before I actually run, test, is it a correct answer? And there's a template there for you to go and have a play around with. It gives you yes, you did it right or wrong as part of kicking off. You can choose whether you want to have practice mode. Sometimes, you know, these things are great for younger ones. Microsoft Lists. Okay, there is a lightweight version when it comes to Microsoft Lists so that people can actually use it personally. And like all things, if you're using it in your personal world, then it helps them understand it in the business world. Now, I've gone in, I recently used it where we go in terms of some vacation planning, except it wasn't really vacation planning, it was, well, it was, but anyway, I won't dive into it. Oh, I'm going to give it all away. I'll tell you when it comes around. But I can come in from a personal perspective and actually use it. Now it's in preview mode to be able to have it as part of your account. There's a video on, you know, what it is and how you can actually use it. Now I'm not going to press play on that one. There is also planner integrations when it comes to Microsoft Loop and the way that it's actually being embedded. The task lists now, so the Loop and tasks are embedding together so that even when you copy and paste and you put that component, whether it's in Chat, Outlook, Loop, wherever you put it, they're all integrating together between the two so that you can, if you tick something off in Planner and it's embedded and it's part of Loop, it will actually tick off there. Really important component considering we're seeing Loop generated for Teams meetings, and we want them to be joining up to Planner so that we're not replicating and all over the place. So the two are now coming together. And I'm ready to move on. Okay. Videos embedded for you to watch. Mobile, when it comes to our task management with Planner, there's been a bit of a cleanup around things like those buckets. Those buckets are going to be a lot easier to be able to filter when to our mobile phone. This was something I have been waiting on for a while, hence why I have put it in. I have talked a lot about mobile features these days, but this one in particular is a great one to be able to help and support so you can do it on the go. Microsoft Shifts are adding a ton of enhancements. Go in, have a look. Now, it depends on whether you use Shifts or not, but there's some new manager controlled settings coming into play to be able to help and support your, especially around the frontline type of things, type of organizations. If you use Shifts in particular, then you'd like to be able to see what's going on there. You can go in, you can open up Shifts now. So there's in user shift settings. So around opening, swapping, offering time off requests to make it just that little bit more functional for our end users. Viva Engage. If you are a moderator, you might already know a lot of these features and functionality. There is a blog that's gone up around how do you moderate your content in Viva Engage. One I would recommend if you're a new moderator or maybe you're just rolling out now Viva Engage /Yammer. If you are rolling it out and you need to do this as a role, it's a great page of all the different things that you may need to do. Okay. I do particularly like on the latest product roadmap. So Steve Newen, who we've had on, you know, the user group in the past, and the team, James and others, he has put up a, you know, it's a Q&A. There's a recording there, but down the very bottom was a what are you getting in your Viva Engage between the included in your license, the kind of the, it's not free, it's not really free, but included already in your license. Or do you need to purchase extra? If you're not sure, it's been laid out quite nicely in a table. There is a new articles feature that's come into play for longer form posts. That way your corporate communicators can actually, you know, build out some great content inside Engage and have a little bit more control over formatting and the designs. Okay, these can then be viewed across any device. So it's and of course, like all things, go and have a look and make sure that it's looking nice. If you are not sure, go and have a read of the article. It is available for those that are licensed for the Viva suite, the extra or employee communications and communities, okay, which kind of flows into Copilot, the plus stuff. Okay. There is a banner that's been set up for corporate communicators and leaders across Viva Engage. It's got this kind of premium card coming into the top saying you've been added as an admin. It's like this sort of notification up the top. You know, what do you want to do? Assign a corporate communicators, identify senior leaders, set it up a little bit later if you want to. So it's this little pop-up card to be able to start the process. There is new video images piece that's coming into play when it comes to Viva Engage. Now, we talked about this and it was in a blog right back, sort of the July, August updates. Go and have a read, look at it if you wanted to see. And I've just dropped down the bottom. Plus, there's a whole heap of new reactions. So we've got some new fun reactions across Viva Engage. There is a report conversation. Now, this reporting conversation is kind of part of Purview, where if it's not actually meeting the policy for a particular business, there was other ways to be able to report in the past. This one is kind of getting a little bit of an automatic reporting. So you can click on report this particular conversation. It will flow through to the administrator. And when you submit, it just then does the, you know, it gives you a notification to say, thank you for submitting. It's been pushed through and we'll come back to you. Okay. There is a limitation that's been put into place if you wish to be able to stop conversations being moved across communities. The admin can adjust those settings across any community, so each individual community, you can limit that move feature. There's some new network analytics coming into play to be able to monitor in the admin dashboard so that you can see some employee sentiments, the cross-community insights, and now, and this is where it becomes value, some of the AI-powered summarization. There's the new design for post types flowing through. If you have presentations around Viva Engage, you need to update. So this is flowing through over the space of around sort of 3 or 4 months. Those new posts, whether it's actually doing a poll, whether you're praising or you're asking questions, there's a bit of a new view to them. So you'll need to update your screenshots. That will be looking the same no matter which application you come through. Okay. Viva Learning. It's enabling now tagging of content and exporting some of that metadata as well. So you can get sort of those common interest and recommendations. You can search based on a particular relevance, and it also enables your admin to be able to export out so that they can have some offline review analysis on content that's actually being tagged based on interest within the business. So you can then surface content for your users as part of a suggestion based on things that people are interested in. For example, you're starting to see a little bit more interest around change skills. And you might want to go, well, should we get someone in to run some workshops around change? Viva Insights, there is a whole heap of new content. Now, Viva Insights, of course, is a subscription. You've got the basics of Viva Insights, but there's also the subscription side of it, so the more advanced sort of premium insights. And as part of that, there's 17 new teams, channel and collaboration metrics. I'm not going to go through all of those in this session. We will be here for hours if I start to go through all of it. But what I did particularly like is some of the petitions that you could put into play. So as analysts, you can go, I want to contain certain employee data or attributes to just this, or maybe I want to, for example, often a frontline worker group can skew the results for the corporate side of the business. So you might want to divide out and petition the two so that you could do metrics on a particular attribute that you've got set up. So I do like that. So you can go, this is these two groups of the business. Okay. There's some lots of inclusion. There's a link here to take you to what are the new growth and inclusion and engagement reports to be able to help and support you. Okay. Plus some lots more in depth down the bottom. Now the OneNote feed. Whether you're a lover or a hater of clicking on the feed up the top here, which would bring in, running down the right-hand side of OneNote, your feed of things that you've done recently. You can see here I've put in my ESTA application because I'm on my way to the MVP Summit in Seattle. It will give you your feed. Now that is going. It's been retired. It's going to be bringing in the sticky notes, so it's part of a bit more of a lightweight experience. So if you loved it, sorry, it's going. Excel for web. Now remember I said back when a new feature in terms of between forms and Excel, the syncing of forms data. What was quite frustrating was you went into a form, and when you went, I want to look at the Excel results under the results tab, it would open up an Excel document in your OneDrive or your SharePoint. And every time you clicked on that open your Excel, you got a new one again and again. And then you would have then 20 Excel documents in your OneDrive or SharePoint. And it was very frustrating because you kind of go, far out, there's like, 15 here now, because every time I click on it to see the latest results each day, it generated a whole new document. They're fixing that now, so it's actually syncing the data between the two. Yay. So that's that one. Right, so you can see it. And as it brings the new data in, it will actually highlight it as yellow, as new data on the page. The other one I like is being able to insert pictures into the cells. It's one that's been asked for a while, so you can lock it into a cell when you drop it in. This is particularly good, especially where I see it in, you've got it flowing from lists, or you want to bring Excel into lists, you can go, oh, it's a picture field. Those things are starting to all kind of marry up. There's other features and functionality there, like the date picker is another. That one's been a really popular one across the Excel community when it comes to a date picker. I liked it, but not as much as I like the other two. So last but not least, we're getting into the end. I did say we had a lot of content. Microsoft will be retiring Delve for the web. We all saw that coming, didn't we? Now it will retire at the end of the year. There is other features and functionality that kind of surfaces the information that we used to get in Delve. Now, the one thing that you're not going to get is, and what I did love is I did actually quite love boards in Delve where you could bring together content onto a board, a bit like Pinterest. That is not going to be happening anymore. So boards are not being replaced at this point anywhere across 365. It's the only downside I can kind of see. But a lot of this content that you can see through here, we've seen it being replaced when you log into your OneDrive online, and as part of that home, it's all being surfaced there through people, meetings, shared content, recent, popular. That's all kind of flowing into our home page. We've got it all on our home page when it comes to documentation. Okay. Now, as I've said, Classic Teams is going. Microsoft will actually attempt to uninstall it automatically. So it will be going like hardcore, shutting, locking down 31st of March. Please start your users on the journey to the new teams. Start running some training sessions. Will it always be called the new teams? Well, no, of course, once Classic has required, the Microsoft Teams with the new, it's got that light, it's not, it's a really light teal, greeny tealy kind of colour, saying new will drop off. I go get a lot of what's new across Office from the release notes. I did go in, I've had a look at sort of December and January through to February. There's very little in there at the moment in the release notes. It's mainly fixes, lots of fixes right now. There are lots of events and conferences coming up, guys. Let's work our way through some of the ones that I think that you should potentially sign up for. Some are virtual, some are in person, so it depends on where you are. There are a few across Sydney. You can go online. You can actually filter some of the virtual events. You'll be able to see. It will tell you if they're digital or not. So it's got kind of next to it. Go to the events catalog. These are ones that I have filtered based on sort of our time zone and running from kind of 5 a.m. in the morning through till midnight, so it's not too late. So, but there's some great information in there, particularly when it comes to that whole AI and Copilot. If you want to learn some more, like the virtual briefing Copilot for 365 coming up, it's at 1 o'clock on the 20th of the 2nd. So if you want to watch that one, and I also made sure that I filtered and it was being delivered in English. Okay, one to go and have a look at. Now, tomorrow, if you are coming, I will be there. It is closed now for the conference. We're not getting a Ignite conference in Australia, Melina. The conferences are not being run in Australia anymore. Unfortunately, which is really disappointing. They run it in the US. You can actually go to Inspire and Ignite in the US if you're so inclined. But this one, the AI tour, is coming to Sydney tomorrow. So I will be there. If you're coming, come and say hello. So if you're in there, please type in the chat if I'll see you there. No. Hey, look, come say hi. Okay. Digital Workplace New Zealand is coming in towards the end of February. If you are over there or going there, I recommend. The Australian conference has not been announced yet. I know that Debbie is still looking at and locking in locations and dates for that, so keep an eye out. The Microsoft 365 conference, the big M365 conference, is coming in April. If you're wanting to go overseas, there is a discount code there if you want to actually join. There's all the community days. Teams Nation, it is free. Go and register. We've got some great Aussie talent actually speaking at the conference. Go and have a look and get involved. It is going to be running from 7 p.m. right through the night, so up to you whether you want to join or not. The SharePoint Intranet Festival is coming fairly soon in May. Now I am going to have, and I've already been speaking with Swoop, they're going to come in June and they will actually go through those results like they do for each year, so please feel free to join. Now, in March on the 22nd, the Workplace Ninja Australia group is actually going to be running an all-day conference. It is in person. If you want to actually go and register, we're not sure yet who the speakers will actually be or what the topics, but it is around sort of endpoint and modern management for workplace and security, and you never know, I might end up speaking there. Like always, content is available online, resources, links to getting up to date. Where do I find my information? What other user groups are out there? My past content, what's going on next? And for everyone that's hung in with me, considering we've gone longer, as I said, so much content at the moment, so much. It will be next month on the 5th. Who is going to be speaking? Rishi is coming back. I'm really looking forward to this one. I sat down just before Christmas with Rishi and we had a cuppa together. There is some fabulous stuff coming down the line. He's looking after Copilot across ANZ. The new Mocha content is out with Copilot included. He's put up there's a video if you're not sure what Mocha is. Our past sessions, you wanted to go and have a watch of previous sessions with Rishi, then please feel free to go on YouTube if you're not sure. But he is the behavioural architect for Microsoft globally. He is based in Canberra, and I'm really looking forward to having him next month. So feel free to watch out. It'll go live. That is everything. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments along the way, please feel free to type them into chat, or you can put your hand up and come off mute and say hi. For those that have hung out, if you missed anything, then please feel free. And as I say, you know, this one took me about 3 hardcore days from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night. It's never just about getting the content into the presentation. It's actually about reading it. It's about understanding it. It's about the blogs. It's about watching the videos. It's about getting your head around Hopefully I can impart some of that knowledge to you along the way and save you, 3 days of 3 days of learning jammed into a 2-hour session. If you need to go back through the recording on YouTube, I will put it up online as soon as I possibly can for you. And thank you very much for Aniisu for joining us and speaking through his intranet information. Thank you for everyone joining, and always appreciate you coming and supporting the user group. It's fabulous to see faces come back again and again. I do love my fans out there, and I'll chat with you some more soon. I'll see you in a month with Rishi. Thanks everyone. Feel free to come off mute if you wish to.